winning is different than being the best. Winning is being dominant. Winning is having the most power. Being the best is almost an intrinsic reflection on how you feel about your own motivations of both your company and your product or service, and deciding for yourself whether or not you're meeting those expectations. The extended question that I want to pose to you, in this world where you think about best and biggest as different, do you think that there's any way to be a company that encourages competition in your marketplace or in the market that you exist in? Like, how, and is that something that is the responsibility of you as a business owner? Is that just the responsibility of government? I think Peter Thiel would say it's the
Uh,
responsibility of government to clap back against the monopolies. It's the responsibility of the founders to become a monopoly, right? That's like the extended shareholder value principle. Become big, become the biggest, become dominant. So how do you think about that? In some ways,
feel
is
like
being the best also encouraging your competition? Or is there any way to be the best without having good competition? And then having good competition, is it your responsibility to cultivate those people?
yeah, a kind of loosely put together sports analogy, becoming the best is encouraging competition. If I run faster or I score a certain number of points, that's going to invite someone to compete with me on that same
Right.
field. That's how I view
Yeah.
it in the business world. And it could be too much of a simplification, but generally speaking, you enter business in a certain industry and you can compete on price, positioning, quality, distribution. There are a few big categories that you can try to edge out your competition in. You do that, it could invite direct competition in distribution, for example, or the competitor could say, I'm not going to compete against them in distribution. We're not set up for that. We don't want to do that. We're going to compete with them on price or
Right.
quality or some other area. So I think the idea of best can be subjective, that I'm okay with being big. I just don't know if I would encourage founders to listen to the notion of your aim should be to be a monopoly, because a monopoly in my mind is not just the biggest, but it is an entity that is rejecting competition
Mhm.
and trying to push it down rather than engage in it fairly
Right.
by responding to those factors of price. I don't know. I feel if you reject that, you become a bad guy.
Mm.
You're not going to be doing your best. You might hurt your stakeholders. Your purpose to solve a problem, if that's how we boil down
Yeah.
business, solve a problem and get money in return. If you are a monopoly, you might stop solving the problem as best as you can in order to make more and more, because you're now not responding to
Yeah.
competition anymore because you don't
You
have
might
to.
create
Um,
problems in order to make more money.
might create problems. So then I'm an advocate for
Right.
regulation to prevent the monopoly, but I just don't think that's a good wording of the goal. Be the best is okay. I think be the biggest is okay, but to be the only sole survivor, don't love it. I think that's bad.
Do you think there is a lot of academic theory that the point of, like, to Peter Thiel's point, the point of business is to drive towards monopoly, and like business not as individual businesses, but maybe with nuanced goals and stuff, but business as an entire landscape of a marketplace, that everything in the capitalistic free market drives towards the concentration of power and the concentration of capital, which means the concentration of like influence to a customer base in a market in a monopoly. And so something I think about and maybe overthink about is the, in true me fashion, is that if left unchecked as founders, will we become monopolies? Like, will we become, as you put it, the bad guys? And if we think that's true, which I think we're both saying that's true, what are the things that we need to do and think about in order to be good stewards of a competitive marketplace? And that's tough because in some ways it seems like supporting competition is against your incentives. If you thought about doing what Google might have to do, regardless of the Justice Department telling you, like opening up your intellectual property and letting other people use that to either start new businesses or to invent new stuff. I think many people would see that as completely counterintuitive.